a student of counseling psychology at the University of Nairobi, awaiting graduation in December. I'm a very passionate mental health advocate and champion, and currently lead an initiative called Scouts Healing Visible Wounds under the Kenya Scouts Association. This is an initiative that seeks to create awareness on mental health and mental illness, to eradicate the stigma that surrounds it, and also provide psychosocial support for young people to be able to cope with normal stresses of life in whatever they are faced, and also give them an opportunity to thrive. When we speak about mental health, this is a state of well-being in which an individual is able to do a couple of things. One is to realize their potential. Number two is to cope with normal stresses of life. Number three, they are able to work productively in whatever space they are in, and they are also able to make meaningful contribution to the society. So mental health goes beyond what most people know as mtu amechizi. It's a state of well-being encompassing all those four things. When you're able to do those four things, then you can say that you're mentally healthy. So many myths and misconceptions around mental health, because these conversations have previously not been had. And people speak from a point of ignorance. That's why we have this kind of platforms to address them. I will start off with one myth, which is culturally related, where people look at mental illness as a curse from maybe your elders for not going with the societal norms. So people do not look at mental illness as an illness like any other that just manifests itself in the brain. They're looking at it as from the perspective of a curse, which now makes it very hard even for those going through these challenges to come out and seek help. Another myth surrounding mental illness is the fact that it is not treatable. Well, it is manageable, and the interventions usually vary depending on the issue that one has been diagnosed with. So it can be from the approach of doing therapy and medication at the same time, as well as incorporating some positive coping strategies in a person's life. So it is not entirely like you've been given a death card once you are diagnosed with a mental illness. In the mental health field as well, when we speak about suicide, which is a very sensitive issue, most people say that people that speak about suicide or say that they want to die by suicide are just seeking attention, which is not usually the case, because most times when somebody gets to that point of actually expressing that they want to take away their life, it's a cry for help. So we should not ignore it and say that they are trying to get people's attention. People also look at going for therapy as a sign of weakness, and especially for men. We know how our society has brought up our men to be all manly. So the moment somebody says, I'm going in for therapy, you're looked at as a weak person. But it goes beyond that, because you're trying to understand yourself. You're trying to wrap your mind around everything that is happening in your life and handling the best ways you can be able to handle it moving forward, so that you do not find yourself in those deep pits. So a lot of myths around mental health, but with these conversations, people can be able to learn the difference and know what is right. So when we speak about knowing that you are not in a good place mentally, I would use 3 approaches. So one is to look at your behavioral signs. So if you notice maybe like social withdrawal, like you're a person that loves being in social places, but all of a sudden you want to spend all the time alone, you're withdrawing from other people's presence, that could be an indicator that you're not okay. Number 2 is a change in sleeping patterns. So you're either sleeping too much, what we call hypersomnia, or you are not getting enough sleep, which we call insomnia. There could be the change in your appetite. So you're either eating too much or too little as compared to what you consume on a normal day. There are those that become defiant. They just want to go against authority. So be it the police, be it the school administration, be it your employer. You just feel like doing something that is against what is required of the law. There are those that will binge eat or binge drink and get engaging in behavior that is actually risky. Crossing the road without looking both sides to avoid being hit. You're spending a lot of money. You're getting a lot of sexual partners. You're not processing the kind of decisions you're making. Substance use could also be a behavioral indicator that somebody is not at a good place mentally, especially now when it becomes some sort of addiction. They're always running to it. So if somebody was probably just drinking on weekends, it becomes a daily trend that you notice with them. The signs can also manifest themselves emotionally. So you'll note that somebody has frequent anger outbursts. They become very irritable of even the smallest of things, feeling hopeless about life itself. They feel like there's no need for me to keep living. Tomorrow is not going to be any better. They feel helpless, like they cannot do anything with their current situation. Constant feelings of being worried, and also constant feelings of guilt. You feel like you are responsible for even those things that you honestly do not have control over. The signs can also manifest themselves cognitively, which is the third one. So it can be in terms of inability to concentrate. You're in a place having a conversation with someone, 2 minutes later you cannot even remember what you guys were discussing. Inability to make decisions. You're presented with situations where you need to choose A or B, but you cannot be able to do that. And the biggest indicator is usually the suicidal ideations. So you start thinking about wanting to take away your life. You start giving away your possessions, writing notes, looking for the means by which you're going to use to be able to take yourself away. Another interesting manifestation that most people don't know about is something called psychosomatic illnesses. And these are illnesses of the mind that manifest themselves physically. So you'll find that somebody is constantly always going to hospital, getting treated for the same issues, getting on antibiotics all the time, but it's because it's something that you've actually not processed or dealt with that is predisposing you to all this. Because what prolonged stress and mental illness sometimes does to you is to lower your immunity. So your body lacks that ability to fight whatever it throws at you, so you keep going to the hospital all the time. And finally, someone can also gain a lot of weight or lose a lot of weight, which is dependent on what I had mentioned in terms of the behavioral signs, where somebody either eats too much or too little. It will definitely show in your weight changes. So these are some of the ways you can know that you're not in a good place. And I think the most important thing would be to you as a person know how you function on a normal day, so that when you start noticing that these things are happening, then you know that you need to check yourself and see what's wrong. However, this is not supposed to be a criteria for you to diagnose yourself. Only a professional is at a place of doing that. Because again, you'll find that some of these mental illnesses usually have a similarity in some of the symptoms that present themselves. So only a professional will be able to tell you that this is exactly what you are going through. So do not diagnose yourself, but you can have this knowledge so that you're able to know, I am not in a good place. So there are ways in which you can be able to take care of yourself even before you get to that point of getting diagnosed with something like a mental illness. And we have something called positive coping strategies, which encompasses a lot of self-care on yourself. So from practicing journaling, there are those that prefer doing yoga and meditation, physical exercise, because when you engage in exercise, you release some hormones that help you become really happy. Engaging in hobbies or things that you love, speaking to someone when you feel like you're going through something difficult. Do not keep it all to yourself and, the way we are used to suppressing our emotions. Speak up and be able to talk to somebody. So there are a couple of positive coping strategies you can employ, and it usually varies from one person to another. So you keep trying what works best for you until you're able to find, like, this is what I'm supposed to do to be able to get myself back to where I was mentally before. So when you realize that it's becoming too much and you feel like this needs to be addressed, or you know somebody that needs that to now get addressed, it's becoming very prevalent that this person is not okay. We have professionals that are available to offer these mental health services. So once you go to a professional, maybe a counseling psychologist or a psychiatrist, the first thing they're going to do is make a diagnosis of what exactly is wrong. Is it just normal stress? Do we refer to this as a mental illness? Is it depression? Because I told you earlier, you could be presenting the signs, but they could be pointing to something specific or a couple of issues. So there's a criteria that they usually use in being able to diagnose you and tell you it is depression that you have, it is anxiety that you have. So once that diagnosis has been made, then you start the process of you becoming better. So depending on the diagnosis you've received, there are those issues that will be treated just by you having something called talk therapy, where a therapist places you at a point where you speak about it and you also learn this is how I'm supposed to handle it moving forward. There are those conditions where you couple both therapy and medication. You take them hand in hand, And generally, you also bring in now the positive coping strategies into your life, taking care of yourself and being intentional about self-care. So it's usually like a web of a couple of things for you to be able to get better. So where do you get help? There is a toll-free line by the Kenya Red Cross available 24/7 that anyone can call in. The number is 1199. You'll always get a counseling psychologist on the other end that is going to listen to you and just guide you through whatever it is that you're going through. So if you're feeling like finances are a bit of a constraint, that is an option for you. I know a couple of government facilities that also offer these mental health services. In Nairobi, I can mention the Mathare National Teaching and Referral Hospital. I know of Mama Lucy Kibaki, and at the Kenyatta National Hospital, therapy is actually free for anybody below the age of 25. So that's a place that you can also walk in. For other counties, you can check with your level 4 or level 5 hospitals. We also have a couple of private clinics. In Nairobi, I know of the Chiromo Lane. On those other locations, I'm not very sure, but of course when you go to Google, you'll always be able to get these places. Just search for something like mental health facility. So most of these facilities offer a wide range of these mental health services, from diagnosis to the therapy to medication and all that. But for something specialized like rehabilitation, there's also that option. We have so many rehabilitations for anybody that is struggling with addiction. So help is available. There's the online toll-free line I've spoken about. When you get these counselors, there are those that actually do the sessions even virtually. So distance is not supposed to be a very big issue for you. So just go online, you'll be able to get all these resources with the technology that exists. Help is available. So I would want to speak to anyone that feels they are not in a good place mentally. Just because you have to do all the inner work and a lot of personal work on your own does not mean that you have to do it alone. Speak up and reach out. And speaking up and being vulnerable is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength. Live a day at a time. Put in what you can in terms of self-care work, and everything is going to be just fine. And if you know somebody that is going through something and they've reached out to you, or you want to reach out to them and you don't know how to do it, just learn how to become a safe space. Listen to them with empathy. Do not be judgmental. Do not belittle their problems by telling them about yours. And just give them that space. Give them that support that they need. Accompany them in every single day of their life. Remind them that there's a reason for them to be alive and the world is a better place because they are there. And when all gets worse, please always refer them to a professional, because remember, again, you're not in a place to offer that professional help. So provide that link, but most importantly, be able to listen to them. So for anyone who would want to get in touch with me, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as Ivy Murugi. The social handles will be shared on the description box, so you can get in touch with me, feel free. We will also put our business account number for anyone that would want to reach out personally for therapy or connection to a therapist. And I would also want to invite you to join our activities as Scouts Healing Visible Wounds. We are open to both Scouts and Scouts, any young person. So we do capacity building in terms of the mental health trainings. We do advocacy through awareness webinars and social media campaigns. And we also do mental health advocacy through experiential activities. So talk of swimming, talk of psychosocial camps, talk of hikes, talk of aerobics and Zumba. If you don't want to be part of all those, just follow us on our social media handles, Scouts Healing Visible Wounds, and be part of this great movement as we normalize these conversations and make this world a better place. Thank you so much.